Elden Ring on Xbox Series X and S gives players a ton of things to be excited about, but From Software games are always all about those boss fights. So we thought we'd provide a quick ranking of those we've encountered so far. Be warned though, Tarnished, spoilers are ahead.
Elden Ring's a game where the term easy is a little bit liberal, but there are certainly some bosses that are less fearsome than others. Take FromSoft's mainstay, Patches, for example. For starters, how scary can someone named Patches really be, if you ask me? He's actually only half as tough as he looks, surrendering once you've bashed off 50% of his health bar. And while mercy isn't usually in the Soul's handbook, if you let him live, he'll actually act as a merchant who you can buy items from, including an item that will come in particularly handy against a later foe. But we'll get to that later on in the video, alright? Naturally, the boss you encounter in the tutorial section is also a little bit of a pushover. The Soldier of Godrick is a big ungainly fella who swings around a heavy sword, making his moves pretty easy to read in my books, plus his HP is low so he will fall in just the smallest number of hits. The Stonedigger Troll that you'll find in Limgrave tunnels is similarly cumbersome, although the fact that your attacks bounce off his rocky hide means that you won't be able to string together melee combos on him, so make sure each shot counts. Single charge attacks holding the right trigger are the right way to go here, or using your left trigger Ashes of War. The Beastman of Farum Azula has a much more intimidating moniker, but he's another one who can be easily outmaneuvered. Get close enough to trigger his combos, and then backstep or roll away from harm, and you'll have a small but pretty clear window to attack after he's finished his sequence. Lay in some heavy attacks with the right trigger button, and soon you'll be able to call yourself the Beastmaster. All the way over in Stormfoot Catacombs, you'll meet your first Erdtree burial watchdog, but fortunately their bark is worse than their bite. Although their bark does involve a stream of scorching fire, so try to keep away from that too. These watchdogs, who look suspiciously like cats, might I add, also appear in a few different dungeons and catacombs, sometimes annoyingly accompanied by other smaller enemies like goblins. But if you nip in for a few attacks and then back away, roll with the B button fast when it becomes airborne by the way, you should have this doggo soon playing dead.
The Grave Warden Duellist is another pretty simple boss you'll encounter down in the catacombs. They've got a pretty nasty AoE attack in their arsenal that involves swinging their weapons round in a big circle, but if you keep an eye out for that, you should be able to win this duel. So long as you don't suffer from molluscophobia, you should be able to make light work of the Spirit Caller Snail. It uses a summon and then turns invisible, but if you look for the glowing Sild slithering around the place, you can attack it and reveal its true form before hacking it down pretty quickly. Escargot, anyone? Miranda the Blighted Bloom is a truly toxic individual who you'll encounter over in Tombswood Cave. You should probably just accept that you are going to get poisoned here, but if you hug the walls you can avoid her lightning AoE attacks. Magic users might want to get an incantation like Cure Poison equipped so that you can heal yourself with the quick press of a bumper button, while melee players should try to circle Miranda while taking big swings with an eye to landing a critical strike. The Scaly Misbegotten is another creature with a very silly name who you should feel free to make fun of. You'll see their lumbering attacks coming a mile off, making this a bit of a breeze, especially if you summon some ashes to distract them and you've got enough dexterity to dodge effectively. Finally, for the easier section, there's Mad Pumpkinhead. They look like something out of a Charlie Brown special, and they aren't worth peanuts as fighters go. The Lone Wolf Ashes are a great summon here as they'll take aggro from the boss and make it easy for you to land combos. As tempting as it is to whack that big shiny dome, they'll take a lot less damage that way. So work the body, avoid overhead attacks, and they'll soon be Mad Pumpkin dead. And if you made it through these bouts relatively unblemished, then congratulations, your reward is a group of way tougher bad guys to fight next.
Alrighty, before we get to the real heavy hitters that we've encountered thus far, there are a few bosses that land somewhere in the middle between the aforementioned pushovers and the nightmares soon to come. The Leonine Misbegotten is one such middling boss fight. This feline fellow is highly aggressive with a tricky mixture of fast and slow attacks that can catch you out if you're not on your game. Blocking won't do you much good here even with a decent shield, so dodge around and look to strike when Leonine's leap attacks leave them open. Adan, Thief of Fire, is another reasonably tough customer found in Malefactor's Evergal, you know, those optional portal gates within stone basins, in southern Liurna of the Lakes. This sticky-fingered son of a gun stole himself some fire magic which you'll want to watch out for. And he's also well versed in the ancient art of smacking fools upside the head with a big spiky flail. Fortunately, his magic attacks are all telegraphed by a red circular rune, and his melee attacks are pretty lengthy, so there's plenty to work on with the counterattack.
While you'll see the tree sentinel strutting his stuff right at the start of the game, we'd highly recommend avoiding this particular scuffle until you've leveled up a bit. And if that means running away in terror the first time he charges after you, then so be it. No shame here. When you are ready to square off, you'll be faced with a wide and varied moveset that makes timing dodges especially difficult. So blocking could be the way to go if your shield is up to it. Make sure to really keep your distance when he leaps into the air for his shield slam attack because it covers a way bigger area than you might expect and is likely to one-shot anyone caught in the blast. The best approach is probably to fight fire with fire by getting on horseback, dashing in for a hit, and then immediately retreating away from those huge spear swings, which, by the way, they kind of feel like they hit even more swiftly in 60 FPS in performance mode, don't they? Chop these guys down to size and you might be ready to take on Elden Ring's most fearsome foes.
Now, the Erdtree and its smaller cousins may look gorgeous in 4K on the Xbox Series X, but be warned, they're mostly all protected by guards who can and will kill you in 2 hits. You'll encounter the Erdtree Avatars next to the minor Erdtrees all over the map, and while they vary significantly in difficulty, the tougher ones are seriously tricky. Since they tend to stay fairly rooted to the spot, see, do you get it? Your best bet is to hop on Torrent's back once again and take a hit and run approach to the battle. It also might be worth dismounting from time to time and crafting some fire pots to lob. Margit the Fell Omen is a bad guy we've known about for a while now since he showed up in the closed network test a while ago, although this isn't really a better the devil you know situation. He's got a brutal selection of rapid short and long range attacks in his 2 forms using his massive limbs, as well as lengthy combos that can quickly drain your stamina if you're holding left bumper trying to block him. That said, if you were kind enough to keep Patches alive earlier, remember when I said that? You can get an item called Margit Shackle from him, which binds Margit to the ground and lets you get a few cheap shots in. Or even better, use ranged magic like Glintstone if your character is able. Margit is also vulnerable to bleed status effect. You won't be able to see his blood loss meter building, but if you land 5 or 6 hits with a club or mace, you should be able to fill it and leave him with some pretty hefty damage.
Another boss who CNT players will have not so fond memories of is the flying dragon Agheel, who likes to swoop down from the sky around the dragon-burnt ruins. Attacks to Agheel's head will do the most damage, but that's also where he keeps all of his teeth, so a lengthier weapon like the Bastard Sword or Winged Spear is good if you want to land those headshots without getting snacked on. Great swords and warhammers will also deal serious damage to Agheel, opening him up to critical strikes. If you take out the Beastman before this, you'll also have the Flame Drake Talisman, which will help you take the edge off of his breath attacks. Another boss we've had our eye on for a while is Godrick the Grafted. With his many arms and the ginormous golden axe he likes to hold in them, Godrick is a bit of a nightmare, capable of attacking in rapid flurries and covering massive areas. Things only get worse in his second phase too, as he speeds up and spawns a dragon's head on one of his arms and uses it like a flamethrower. So flame negation armor could be a good idea here. If you went past the barricades on the approach to Godrick's arena and spoke to Nephili, you'll have the option of tagging her in, which is a great way to divide Godrick's attention. Even then though, I'd highly recommend your weapon is at least +3 before throwing hands at this many-armed maniac. As his name suggests, Commander O'Neill loves telling people what to do, and he'll have a whole bunch of ranged and melee NPCs under his command to help him control the arena. He's tough and he hits hard, so use Torrent to keep your distance and try to chip away at his health slowly with ranged if you can. O'Neill is also vulnerable to poison, so if you've got anything toxic at your disposal, now is the time to use it.
The Bloodhound Knight Darriwil is another deviously difficult encounter in a bunch of different ways. It's fast, aggressive, and turns invisible when it moves, just for a start. You might be tempted to cower behind your shield, but be careful as even blocked attacks will contribute to your hemorrhage status effect. On the flip side, the windows you'll have to counter are in small supply, limiting you to 1 or 2 attacks if you don't want to trade damage. Definitely one where you'll need to be careful to learn the enemy's attack patterns if you want to have any chance of success whatsoever. The good news is that you don't have to take Darriwil on alone. Use the finger snap emote in front of the Mistwood ruins and you'll get the attention of a very powerful warrior called Blade the Half-Wolf. Turns out he's got a bit of a vendetta against old Darriwil, and you'll find a summoning sign for him next time you head to the Forlorn Horn Evergaol. Finally, I've got to tell you about the ancient hero of Zamor. Frankly, I don't see what's so heroic about him if you ask me. He's basically just a big ice magic wielding jerk as far as I'm concerned, but he's got a chilling breath attack that's sure to leave you shivering, and he'll enchant his sword with frostbite as well if you manage to lop half his health bar off. Fortunately, Zamor himself is pretty weak against magical attacks, so spellcasting players will be in their element here. Just think warm thoughts, give his AoE attacks a wide berth, and you might just make it through. Maybe, might, just.
Of course, the Lands Between still holds all kinds of horrors that we haven't had the pleasure of being brutally murdered by yet, so there's plenty more to look forward to. For all our latest Elden Ring exploits and Xbox news in general, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell. Sound off in the comments about your own boss fight power rankings so far, and best of luck in your next battle. Bye!